The diplomatic insult. Ambassador Marcus Vale couldn't help but notice the irony of his situation. The grand chamber of the Galactic Concordat, with its soaring crystalline spires and swirling nebula visible through its transparent dome, was designed to inspire awe. Instead, it currently echoed with the sound of laughter, directed squarely at humanity's first diplomatic presentation. Surely this is some form of jest. High Chancellor Ixal of the Venaxi Imperium fluttered his iridescent wings in what Vale recognized as barely contained amusement. "You expect to join the Concordat with a fleet of— how many vessels did you say?" "7 ships, Your Excellency," Vale replied, keeping his voice steady despite the renewed waves of chittering, clicking, and various other alien expressions of mirth that filled the chamber. The Trinity fleet represents Earth's finest achievements in spacefaring technology. The hologram floating above the central podium showed the ships in formation. To human eyes, they were marvels of engineering. Sleek, angular vessels with a distinctive dark blue hull that seemed to drink in the light of distant stars. To the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, they apparently resembled children's toys. First Admiral Xerta of the Hegemony battle fleet didn't bother hiding his disdain. His massive, armored form rose from his seat, 4 arms crossed in what Vale had learned was a gesture of dismissal. The Hegemony deploys more ships to guard a single mining outpost. Your entire fleet wouldn't fill one of our carrier bays. Vale had expected this reaction. Intelligence reports had warned that most spacefaring races followed a similar development pattern. Bigger was always better, and quantity had a quality all its own. Humanity had been forced to take a different path. "If I may," Vale gestured to the hologram, zooming in on the flagship, the TNS Prometheus. "What our fleet lacks in size, it makes up for in innovation. Each vessel incorporates technologies that—" "Technologies," interrupted Representative Zilnak of the Meridian Confluence, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated skepticism. "Your species only achieved FTL travel 50 years ago. The youngest race here has been crossing the stars for at least 5 centuries." Vale noticed something interesting as the laughter continued. The representatives of the younger spacefaring races, those who had achieved interstellar flight within the last millennium, weren't joining in the mockery. They were studying the hologram with careful attention, particularly the unusual configurations of the human ship's drive systems. "Chancellor," Vale addressed Ixal directly, ignoring the continuing murmurs of amusement. "Earth understands its position as a newcomer to the galactic community. We don't pretend to match the vast fleets of the established powers. Instead, we focused our efforts on innovation, on finding new solutions to old problems." "Old problems." First Admiral Xerta's translator barely managed to contain the scorn in his voice. "Space combat has been refined to a science over millennia. Numbers, firepower, and shield strength determine victory. Your tiny fleet would be destroyed in seconds by any real military force." Vale smiled slightly. Perhaps size and numbers aren't everything. Earth's history is full of examples where smaller, more innovative forces prevailed against overwhelming odds. History. Chancellor Ixal's wings flickered in the equivalent of a dismissive wave. "You barely have any. Your civilization still bears the scars of nuclear warfare from less than 2 centuries ago. How can you possibly think?" The chamber's emergency alert system activated with a piercing tone, cutting off the Chancellor mid-sentence. A new hologram materialized, showing a sector of space near the Concordat's core worlds. "Priority distress signal from Outpost Gamma 9, announced the automated system. "Multiple hostile vessels detected. Defensive systems breached. Civilian casualties reported." The chamber erupted in chaos. Vale watched as the mighty representatives of the galaxy's greatest powers scrambled to respond. The outpost was a crucial supply hub, home to over 50,000 civilians. "How many hostile ships?" demanded First Admiral Xerta. 32 vessels identified, responded the system. Configuration matches known patterns of the Scarlet Blade Pirate Coalition. The nearest hegemony battle group is 3 days away at maximum speed, one of Xerta's subordinates reported. The Meridian Defense Fleet is engaged with a spatial anomaly in the Carina sector, Xylnak added, their crystalline form clouding with concern. We cannot respond in time. Vale stepped forward, his voice cutting through the panic. The Trinity fleet can reach Gamma 9 in 6 hours. The chamber fell silent. Then, predictably, the laughter started again, though notably more strained this time. 7 ships against 32. Xerta's translator couldn't quite capture the mix of mockery and pity in his voice. You would be signing your own death warrant, Ambassador. Vale's smile didn't waver. Perhaps, but while you debate and calculate probabilities, civilians are dying. Earth's fleet may be small, but we're willing to act. The question is, will the Concordat accept our help, or will pride cost innocent lives? The silence that followed was deafening. Vale could see the political calculations running through their minds. If they accepted and the human fleet was destroyed, they would look foolish for allowing such a sacrifice. If they refused and the outpost fell, they would appear callous and ineffective. Chancellor Ixel's wings shifted through several complex patterns before he spoke. The Concordat accepts Earth's assistance, Ambassador, though we strongly advise you to wait for proper military support. Vale was already activating his communicator. Trinity Fleet Command, this is Ambassador Vale. You have authorization to proceed to Outpost Gamma 9. Rules of engagement are authorized under Concordat Emergency Protocol 7. The response came immediately in the clear, confident voice of Fleet Commander Reyes. Acknowledged, Ambassador. Trinity Fleet moving to engage. We'll try not to embarrass anyone too badly. As Vale watched the representative's reactions to this decidedly non-diplomatic response, he couldn't help but think that the next few hours would either establish humanity's place among the stars or end their galactic ambitions entirely. Somehow, he wasn't worried. After all, humanity had always performed best when everyone else thought failure was certain. First Blood. Fleet Commander Isabella Reyes stood on the bridge of the TN's Prometheus, watching the tactical display with calm intensity. The 7 ships of the Trinity Fleet moved in perfect formation, their dark blue hulls seeming to bend the very starlight around them. Status report, she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. Quantum fold drive operating at peak efficiency, Lieutenant Park reported from engineering. Phase shift matrices are primed and synchronized across all vessels. 32 hostile contacts confirmed. Tactical Officer Lieutenant Commander Singh added, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Their formation suggests standard pirate tactics, overwhelming force through superior numbers. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. How predictable, just like our friends at the Concordat. She turned to address the bridge crew directly. They think size and numbers are everything. Let's show them how wrong they are. Execute Pattern Trinity 7. The 7 ships of the fleet began to move in ways that should have been impossible. The pirates' targeting systems struggled to maintain locks as the human vessels seemed to flicker in and out of normal space. They're launching their first wave, Singh reported. 20 fighters, heavy energy weapons. Time to show them our first trick, Reyes said. Execute phase shift. To the pirates' sensors, the 7 human ships suddenly became 21. Each vessel split into 3 perfect copies, identical down to the quantum level. The pirate fighters' targeting systems went haywire, unable to determine which ships were real, because, in a way, they all were. Phase shift successful, Park confirmed. Quantum coherence holding steady at 94%. The pirate fighters opened fire, their energy weapons cutting through space and passing harmlessly through phantom images as the real ships danced between dimensions. Their shields are exactly what we expected, Singh noted. Powerful, but rigid. No adaptation capability. Reyes nodded. Time for trick number 2. Deploy the resonance arrays. The Trinity Fleet ships began emitting precisely calibrated energy pulses. To most observers, it would have appeared random, even desperate. But these pulses were the result of years of research into shield harmonics. Resonance building in their shield matrices, Singh reported with satisfaction. 30 seconds to critical interference. The pirates, realizing something was wrong, began to adjust their formation. Their larger ships moved to protect the fighters, presenting an even more impressive wall of energy shields and weapon arrays. They're clustering together, Rais observed. Perfect. Lieutenant Commander Patel, show them what the Avalon can do. The TNS Avalon, smallest of the Trinity Fleet ships, suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. Its hull briefly glowed with exotic energies as it activated its unique systems. Avalon reports quantum tunneling drive engaged, Park announced. They're ready for the intercept. The Avalon disappeared, not with the flash of a traditional FTL jump, but with a subtle ripple in spacetime. It reappeared instantly inside the pirates' formation, between their shields. How? One of the pirate captain's transmission cut through the comm channels. That's impossible. No ship that small should have that kind of drive system. Avalon deploying resonance mines, Singh reported calmly. Dozens of tiny devices materialized around the Avalon, each one synchronized to the fleet's resonance arrays. The pirates' shields, already straining from the external interference, began to collapse from within. Multiple shield failures detected, Singh announced. Their formation is breaking up. Rais leaned forward. Now for the final. All ships, execute pattern Trinity Nova. The Trinity Fleet ships moved in perfect synchronization, their phantom images creating a dizzying display of movement. But this was more than mere visual confusion. Each ship's quantum drive was precisely calibrated, creating a complex web of gravitational distortions. Gravitational lens forming, Park reported. Field stability at 98%. The space around the pirate fleet began to twist. Their weapons fire, aimed at the phantom images, was caught in the gravitational distortions and redirected back at their own ships. This is Fleet Commander Rais of the Earth Trinity Fleet. She broadcast on all channels. Your shields are down, your weapons are useless, and you're firing on yourselves. Surrender now, or we'll show you what our ships can do when we're actually trying to destroy something. The response was immediate. Ship after ship powered down their weapons. The mighty pirate fleet, which had expected an easy victory over 7 small vessels, had been completely neutralized without a single direct hit. All hostile vessels powering down, Singh confirmed. They're surrendering. Rais activated the comm channel to Gamma 9. Outpost control. This is Trinity Fleet. The threat has been neutralized. No civilian casualties from combat operations. We're beginning rescue operations now. She clicked off the channel and turned to her crew. Well done, everyone. But let's not celebrate too much yet. The real test will be explaining to the Concordat how we did this without violating any of their precious technological treaties. As the Trinity Fleet moved to secure the captured pirate vessels, Rais couldn't help but wonder what the mighty representatives of the Concordat were thinking now. Their carefully maintained beliefs about warfare, technology, and humanity's place in the galaxy had just been upended. And this, she knew, was just the beginning. The hidden talent. The grand chamber of the Galactic Concordat had never been so quiet. The holographic display showed the aftermath of the Trinity Fleet's engagement, and not a single representative spoke as they watched the seemingly impossible footage. Ambassador Vale stood calmly at the podium, hands clasped behind his back. As you can see, all civilians at Gamma 9 have been evacuated safely. The pirate fleet has been neutralized, with 0 casualties on either side. First Admiral Ksurta broke the silence first. This recording must be falsified. The maneuvers we're seeing, they violate fundamental laws of physics. I assure you, Vale replied, everything you're seeing is quite real. The laws of physics aren't being violated. They're being understood at a deeper level. Chancellor Ixal's wings vibrated with agitation. Explain the phase shifting. No species has successfully developed multi-dimensional combat technology. The energy requirements alone would be impossible using conventional quantum mechanics. Vale finished. Which is why we don't use conventional quantum mechanics. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs as Vale gestured to the hologram. The display shifted to show the internal schematics of a Trinity ship, but rather than traditional engineering diagrams, the image showed patterns of energy that seemed to fold in on themselves in impossible ways. Humanity had to think differently, Vale continued. When we realized we couldn't match the size of your fleets, we looked for alternatives. Our scientists discovered that consciousness itself affects quantum states in ways your civilizations haven't explored. Representative Zilnak's crystalline form pulsed with skepticism. Are you claiming your ships are conscious? Not exactly, Vale smiled. But each ship has a neural interface that connects directly with its crew. The phase shifting isn't done by computers. It's guided by human minds working in perfect synchronization. We don't fight ships. We dance with them. The footage showed the TNS Avalon's impossible quantum tunnel maneuver. Several military advisors in the chamber were frantically taking notes. That's why copying our technology won't work, Vale added. The neural interfaces are calibrated to human brainwave patterns. Without the right psychological profile, the systems are useless. First Admiral Xerta stood abruptly. This is unacceptable. You've been concealing military technology. We concealed nothing, Vale interrupted. Everything we've developed falls within the guidelines of the technology-sharing treaties. We simply approached the problems from a different angle. After all, necessity is the mother of invention. Before anyone could respond, emergency alerts blared again. This time, the holographic display showed something that made even Vale's composed expression falter. A massive fleet was emerging from hyperspace at the edge of Concordat space. The ships were unlike anything on record. Biomechanical constructs that seemed to writhe and pulse with malevolent energy. Unknown contacts, the automated system announced. 300 vessels detected. Energy signatures indicate weapons of mass destruction. They are not responding to hails. Chancellor Ixal's wings turned pale. The swarm. They've returned. Vale looked at the display with growing concern. The historical records he'd studied mentioned the swarm, a mysterious species that had nearly destroyed the Concordat 2,000 years ago before disappearing into unknown space. The combined fleets of the Concordat cannot assemble in time, Turtet admitted, his earlier arrogance replaced by grim calculation. Even if we could, the swarm's bioships are immune to conventional weapons. That's why they were never truly defeated before. Vale activated his communicator. Commander Reyes, are you receiving this? Affirmative, Ambassador, Reyes responded. The Trinity fleet is ready to engage. The chamber erupted in protests. 7 ships against 300. Chancellor Ixal's wings flickered in distress. And these aren't pirates. They're the most dangerous enemy the Concordat has ever faced. Vale's expression remained resolute. You've seen what 7 human ships can do. But you haven't seen everything we're capable of. Commander Reyes, execute Protocol Omega. Acknowledged, Reyes replied. Ambassador, you might want to warn them to brace themselves. This is going to get interesting. As the Trinity fleet moved to engage the swarm, Vale turned to address the stunned chamber. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all designations, you're about to learn why Earth chose quality over quantity, and why the size of a fleet matters far less than the ingenuity of its crew. The holographic display showed the 7 ships of the Trinity fleet advancing toward the massive swarm armada. But something was different about them now. Their hulls were beginning to glow with an energy that defied analysis, and space itself seemed to bend around them in ways that made even the most experienced observers feel dizzy. The real demonstration of humanity's hidden talents was about to begin. Unity through adversity. The swarm struck first, launching a wave of biomissiles that twisted through space like living serpents. The Trinity fleet's response defied every known law of space combat. Instead of raising shields or attempting evasive maneuvers, the 7 ships began to spin in an intricate pattern. What are they doing? First Admiral Curta demanded, watching from the Concordat chamber. They're making themselves easier targets. Ambassador Vale remained silent, watching as the Trinity fleet executed their most closely guarded strategy. The spinning ships created a geometric pattern in space, their quantum drives synchronizing in perfect harmony. Suddenly, the space between them began to glow. Energy readings off the scale, reported a Meridian science officer. They're generating some kind of quantum field. The biomissiles hit the field and vanished. Not exploded, not deflected, but simply ceased to exist. The Trinity fleet's dance continued, their pattern growing more complex as the ships moved in ways that seemed to ignore inertia. Commander Raya's voice came through clear on the command channel. Quantum erasure field stable. Moving to Phase 2. All ships, initiate consciousness sync. The hulls of the Trinity ships began to pulse with an inner light. The neural interfaces that connected crew to ship were operating at full capacity, 7 crews thinking and moving as one. What happened next made the assembled Concordat representatives question everything they thought they knew about space warfare. The Trinity fleet merged. Not physically. The ships remained separate, but on a quantum level, they became a single entity. The space between them folded in impossible ways, creating a geometric pattern that hurt to look at directly. By the first stars, Chancellor Ixel whispered, wings trembling. What are we seeing? Humanity's greatest discovery, Vale replied quietly. We learned that consciousness itself is a fundamental force of the universe. When minds work in perfect harmony, reality becomes negotiable. The swarm launched another attack, this time with energy weapons that could cut through traditional shields like paper. But the Trinity fleet's quantum geometry absorbed the energy, redistributed it, and sent it back transformed. Where the energy beams touched the swarm ships, the biomechanical material began to unravel at the quantum level. They're not destroying the swarm, Representative Zilnak observed, their crystalline form pulsing with revelation. They're convincing reality that the swarm ships don't exist. Vale nodded. Every crew member in the Trinity fleet is both a pilot and a quantum observer. Together, they can locally redefine the parameters of existence itself. The swarm, sensing that they faced something beyond their experience, changed tactics. Their ships began to merge into larger forms, creating massive biological superstructures that dwarfed even the largest Concordat vessels. Size doesn't matter. Commander Raya's voice came through again, sounding strained but determined. All ships, prepare for consciousness cascade. Show them what humanity can really do. The geometric pattern between the Trinity ships expanded suddenly, growing to encompass a volume of space larger than the entire swarm fleet. Within that volume, the normal rules of physics became polite suggestions. The swarm's biological weapons found themselves trying to exist in space that no longer accepted their presence. Multiple swarm vessels destabilizing, announced the Concordat's tactical system, unknown quantum effect spreading throughout their fleet. One by one, the swarm ships began to dissolve, their impossible biology unable to maintain coherence in the face of humanity's manipulation of reality itself. There was no explosion, no dramatic destruction. They simply faded away, erased from existence by the combined will of 7 ship crews working in perfect harmony. The chamber was dead silent as the last swarm ship vanished. The Trinity fleet's geometric pattern collapsed, and the 7 ships returned to normal space, their hulls cooling as the quantum effects dissipated. Trinity fleet to Concordat control, Commander Rice reported, her voice exhausted but proud. Threat neutralized. Requesting permission to return to dock for crew recovery. That level of consciousness sync takes a lot out of you. First Admiral Curto was the first to find his voice. Ambassador Vale, what we just witnessed, it changes everything we thought we knew about warfare, about physics itself. Vale smiled slightly. No, Admiral. It simply confirms what humanity has always known, that the universe is stranger and more wonderful than we can imagine, and that the power of minds working together can accomplish the impossible. As the Trinity fleet made its way back to dock, the representatives of the Galactic Concordat began to understand that they hadn't just witnessed a military victory. They had seen the future, a future where the size of your fleet mattered far less than the innovation, determination, and unity of those who crewed it. The age of brute force was over. The age of consciousness had begun. Respect earned. 1 week after the battle with the Swarm, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Concordat had been transformed. Where once the representatives sat in hierarchical tiers based on fleet size and military power, now they gathered in a circle of equals. The defeat of the Swarm had forced a fundamental revaluation of everything the galactic community thought it knew. Ambassador Vale stood at the center of the chamber, but this time there was no laughter, no mockery. Instead, there was rapt attention as he prepared to address the assembly. "The crews of the Trinity fleet have recovered," he began. "Though the level of consciousness synchronization required to defeat the Swarm pushed them to their limits, they've emerged stronger. Each time we perform such feats, we learn more about the true nature of reality and our place within it." First Admiral Turta, his previous arrogance replaced by genuine respect, raised one of his 4 hands. "The Hegemony Battle Fleet requests permission to send observers to train with your crews. We offer our largest battleships in exchange." Vale shook his head, smiling. "Admiral, you still don't quite understand. We don't need bigger ships. What we offer isn't technology that can be traded or techniques that can be quickly learned. We offer partnership." Chancellor Ixel's wings shimmered with curiosity. "Explain, Ambassador." "The Trinity fleet's success isn't about the ships or even the quantum manipulation technology," Vale said. "It's about humanity's greatest strength, our ability to connect, to work together, to synchronize our consciousness in ways that transcend individual limitations." He gestured, and a new hologram appeared. It showed the neural patterns of the Trinity fleet's crews during the battle with the Swarm. The intricate dance of consciousness was beautiful in its complexity. Each species in the Concordat has unique mental abilities, different ways of perceiving and interacting with reality. Vale continued, "Imagine what we could accomplish if we learned to synchronize not just human minds, but the consciousness of every spacefaring race." The chamber erupted in excited discussion. Representative Zilnak's crystalline form pulsed with intense colors. "You're proposing a fundamental change in how we approach space exploration and defense." "More than that," Vale replied. "I'm proposing a fundamental change in how we view ourselves and our place in the universe. The Swarm wasn't defeated by weapons or technology. They were defeated by the combined will of conscious beings working in perfect harmony." Commander Reyes, who had been standing quietly at the back of the chamber, stepped forward. "We've already begun preliminary studies. Each species' unique consciousness adds new dimensions to the quantum geometry we can create. Together, we could achieve things that none of us could dream of alone." The enthusiasm in the chamber was palpable, but First Admiral Surtur raised a practical concern. The training required, the mental discipline needed to achieve such synchronization, will be difficult, Vale acknowledged. "It will require us to move beyond old prejudices, beyond assumptions about size and power. It will require trust, understanding, and a willingness to see the universe through each other's eyes. But isn't that worth more than all the battleships in space?" Chancellor Ixel rose, his wings glowing with the formal patterns of official declaration. "The Galactic Concordat recognizes Earth and its Trinity fleet not just as members, but as teachers. Let it be recorded that on this day, we begin a new chapter in galactic history." As the chamber filled with sounds of agreement, Vale shared a knowing look with Commander Reyes. They had achieved something far greater than military victory. They had shown the galaxy a new way forward, one based not on the size of their ships, but on the strength of their unity. There will be challenges ahead. Vale addressed the chamber one final time. Other threats may emerge from the depths of space, but we will face them together, not as competing fleets, but as one consciousness spread across the stars. After all, that's humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not the power to destroy, but the power to connect, to understand, to transcend our limitations through unity. The chamber erupted in applause, or the various species equivalents thereof. As Vale watched the representatives of 1,000 worlds celebrate this new beginning, he couldn't help but smile at the irony. They had come to prove humanity's worth through the strength of their fleet, but in the end, they had proved it through the strength of their ideas. The laughter that had once filled this chamber had been transformed into joy, not at the expense of others, but in celebration of what they could all achieve together. And somewhere out in space, 7 small ships continued their patrol, carrying crews who had shown the galaxy that the true measure of greatness lies not in the size of your fleet, but in the capacity of consciousness to reshape reality itself. The end.